Okay, good morning everybody. The subject of our morning talk is the sacred Sabbatian Romansero. So I suppose everybody knows what's Romansero, right? Romance or romanza is the ballet or the chivalry song, right? So the Sephardic Jews, when they were kicked out of Spain, they brought with them thousands of oral, epic Iberian songs, who are called romanzas. Why are they called romanzas? Somebody also asked me why the language is called Ladino, so now we are going to explain everything. Why the romanzas are called romanzas? In English, they are called chivalry songs. So, why they are called in Spanish romanzas? Because of the language. The language was romance. No, not romano. Romance. What's romance? Romance is the spoken Latin of Iberian Peninsula. Now, what's the difference? Who knows? What's the difference between a dialect and a language? No.
A thin line people input.
No. The only difference between a dialect and a language is a flag. Dialects have flags, languages have flags, dialects don't. In other words, I'll explain. Flag, la bandiera. Flags. That means these are political decisions. After certain big regions are united, one dialect is usually picked and converted into the national language. So the national language of Spain is Castilian, but that's only one dialect, the dialect of Castilla. The language of France is the dialect of Paris, which was imposed by state on everybody else, right? And then, whatever, in Italy, I believe it's the dialect of Milano that was imposed on everybody. And then in Yugoslavia, for example, it was the dialect of Trebinje and Dubrovnik combined, those who were with us.
In Switzerland, everybody speaks his dialect.
Yeah, okay. Sometimes that's...
Somebody's from this city or from that city.
And sometimes that's the solution. And then there is also the Bulgarian solution. What was the Bulgarian solution? They didn't pick one dialect of one region. They picked different notions from different dialects. So they created artificial literary language. Usually literary languages, in most of the cases, are based on one dialect which was given primacy over all the others. But in Bulgaria it was not like that, so the king and the Jews were the only people who spoke proper Bulgarian, because everybody else was just speaking his own home dialect, and people don't switch. Okay, now, being the fact that this question is political question of the flag, you will see that the differences between Spanish and Portuguese are much smaller than the differences between Moroccan Arabic and Egyptian Arabic. However, though, it is political decision of the Islamic world that Arabic is one language, and therefore different dialects are spoken in different countries, even though they are so remote from each other that an average speaker in Morocco doesn't understand an average speaker from Egypt. On the other side, in Europe, there was the opposite political decision. Every single political entity claimed to speak a language, not a dialect. So if Europe was Arabic, as it will be, if Europe was Arabic, then today we wouldn't speak about Spanish and Portuguese and Italian as languages. We would rather speak about Italian, Roman, Spanish, Roman, French, Roman, and Romanian Roman. You follow? Yeah. Okay. So the language Romance is actually spoken Roman language of Spain. What does that mean, spoken Roman language? For centuries, people didn't understand, or people didn't recognize, if you are an essentialist, or people didn't agree that these languages are now another language. They are not corrupt Latin, they are another language. So for years people considered Spanish to be only corrupt Latin. For years people considered French to be only corrupt Latin. Okay, so the corrupt Latin The spoken Latin, the normative Latin is called Roman, and then the corrupt Latin is called Romance. And then this Romance gave a name to two different literary genres. Okay? One is a novel, which only in English you call a novel, and then in all other languages you call it. No, you call it you call it roman. Historical Roman, right? Historical Roman. Roman. You call it Roman in all other languages. Why? Because these were genres that were produced in spoken language, not in, right? So when the Romans, when the novels started, they were not written in Latin, they were written in the language that people spoke. That's why in most European languages you call them romans, novellas, right? Okay, now, the other genre are the romanzas. Now we have to understand, before we ever get to these particular texts, we have to understand first of all, and this is a sentence that I will repeat as far as those who were with us in the Balkans are concerned, but without it we can't understand what is going on. So, in 1492, when the Jews were kicked from Spain, Spanish Judaism was the central point of central focus of world Judaism. So, if somebody kills Jews from France, yeah, well, you know, people have give checks and cry a bit in synagogues, but nobody says, "Where is God?" Well, God is in heaven, and S-H-I-T happens. Right, but when something affects the heart of Judaism, people ask themselves, where was God? So you have to understand that the entire 16th century, world Jewry spent trying to understand the expulsion from Spain. And why is that? Because this was trauma. Sephardic Jews remember expulsion from Spain on which day? On Tisha B'Av. Because it equals the Horban of the first bite and the Horban of the second bite. Why? Because Spanish Judaism at the moment was, from the point of view of quantity and from point of view of quality, the heart and the mind and the right hand of the Jewish people, of entire Jewish people. No, not a single other Jewish community could compare itself to Spain. In nothing. In anything. In anything. Everybody else was just a left hand small finger, right hand small finger, or something. Right? So Spain was actually dictating the Jewish world. Codification is the idea that came from Spain, right? To codify Jewish law. Spanish idea. Investigation of grammar. Oh, now we have to understand two things. Either Spanish Jews invented totally new disciplines, which were unknown and unheard of in previous Judaism, or they picked notions that were already developed in the Orient, in Babylon, or in North Africa, but then they brought them to unimaginable peaks. So, if you take today, when you say Hebrew literature, you think of two things: Spain and modern Israel. Nobody thinks of anything in between. Yes, there are solitary individual writers from other countries, like Emmanuel Haromi, like whatever, right? But when you say Hebrew literature, when you say Hebrew poetry, what do you mean? You mean Rabbi Avraham ibn Ezra, and Rabbi Moshe ibn Ezra, and Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, and Rabbi Shlomo ibn Javiron, and so on, and so on, and so on. And then all of them are from Spain. Then, dealing with Hebrew language, developing Hebrew grammar, systemizing Hebrew grammar, it started a bit in the Orient with Menachem
Ben Samuk.
with Dunash ibn Labrat in the Orient, and then Menachem ibn Saruk already in Spain. And then everybody else is Spain. Right? The triliteral root of Hebrew verb. Something that every kid today in Hebrew school knows. That most of Hebrew verbs have a trilateral source. That was recognized in Spain by the Yehuda ibn Hayuj. Before that, they just learned every verb for itself, as you know, no systematization. Yeah, but when you learn Shorashim, when you recognize that there are Shorashim in the language, it's so much easier to teach it. And so on and so on and so on. Biblical commentary, Talmudic commentary, anything. It was all from there. Now, Jews do have a very interesting, autistic view of Jewish history. What does that mean, autistic view of Jewish history? Jews say, well, you know, Gentiles don't count. Whatever happens is direct result of whether we keep Shabbat or we don't. If we keep Shabbat, God sends us good kings. If we break Shabbat, God sends us bad kings. And usually, this works for the world Jewry. What does that mean, this works for the world Jewry? Most of the people, most of the time, keep Shabbat, and most of the people, most of the time, have normal life. And then sometimes something happens, but it doesn't undermine the rule. Why? Because it's isolated, local. But then when you take the heart of the system, which is Spanish Judaism at the moment, right? And you drop it on the earth, and you dance on it. World Judaism asks the same question the Jews asked after the Auschwitz. Where was God in 1492? This was the main question of Jewish theology during the entire 16th century. How could God allow for expulsion of Spain? How could God allow for expulsion of Spain? Because usual Jewish answer doesn't count. What does that mean? Yes, some people broke Shabbat, and some people had concubines, and some people dealt unjustly with their neighbors. But compared with others, they were, if not better, certainly not worse. So they didn't deserve this kind of punishment. Okay, so maybe, you know, the roof of one synagogue should fall on the people praying in it, and then Spanish Jews will repent for their misgivings. But to kick entire Spanish Jews, they just didn't see any proportion between the divine retribution and their actions. So, obviously, you can come with the answer that there is no God. Or you can come with the answer that there is God, but He is not just. Or you can come with the answer that there is God, He is just, we were wrong. Christians are right, or Islam is right. Most of the Jews did not come to the conclusion that God doesn't exist, that God is unjust, or that Muslims are right, or that Christians are right. So they needed to work out a solution which would leave God in heaven, leave Jews on earth as the chosen people, and still explain why everything functions. So Zionism, political Zionism, was one of the Jewish answers to the 1492 experience. Don Yehuda Naxos, the Duke of Naxos, Don Yosef Nasi, they called him in Hebrew, right? Tried to establish Jewish colonies in the north of Israel, but not people who will pray for the rest of the Jewry, rather young couples who will work in the north. And then other people started to try to re-establish Sanhedrin, which was another expulsion, which is another response to the expulsion. But then Lurianic Kabbalah was the explanation of the world that worked for the overwhelming majority of Jews. Yeah, I was not switching them so fast enough. Yeah. So, what does Lurianic Kabbalah says, and then we can switch to Sabbatian thing. The Lurianic Kabbalah says, God is right, Jews are right, but God is so good that when bestowing His goodness into the world, something happened. The vessels through which these things were, the vessels through which divine goodness was transferred to the world imploded. But it's not because God is unjust, and it's not because Jews are wrong, it's because the containers were too weak to pass the good. You follow? And then what happens is the sparks of goodness and the sparks of holiness fell into the abyss of Sitra Achra. Right? And then Sitra Achra meaning the other side. So ever since it's a task of every single Jew, to bring sparks of holiness from their klipot, because when sparks of holiness fell into the abyss, they chispas, yeah, they
Develop the shell.
yes, they develop a shell, and it's a main purpose of Judaism to remove these shells and restore. Now, you have to. I believe you have to turn it off and then turn it on or whatever. Yeah, because no, because the computer presently is not working. Okay, so now let's follow this.
Can you repeat it because I didn't get you?
Okay.
Shell?
Shells, yes, klipa. Shells. The spark of holiness is now surrounded by a shell. Okay, so you have to see what's going on. Every single Jew became axis mundi. Every single Jew, according to this Torah, according to this interpretation of Judaism, became somebody restoring divine things. But this also meant the Jews were so. Now listen very carefully. Jews were disappointed with history to the extent that they have left it. They've left history. Saying that basically whatever happens in this world is not important, because when you are making Kiddush and you are writing the divine name with your right eye in the wine, you are actually helping the sparks of holiness reach their higher whatever. You follow? So, what happens is, on one side, this helped Jewish message survive. On the other side, this made Jews quite ahistorical. It doesn't mean that everybody every day was ahistorical, but most of the Jews, most of the time, were not functioning anymore in historical realm because the earthly experience became unimportant. And every single mitzvah was a cosmic act. And why do you care, which even runs the Goyshkeit, when you are basically rectifying the world with, you go to the nature and you say Birkat Ilanot, right? One of the most agricultural things in Judaism, right? It's the beginning of the new year, you see new flowers on the trees, you come out and you say Birkat Ilanot. No! Birkat Ilanot makes it possible for the souls who transmigrated into the fruits, into the flowers of the future fruits, to leave those flowers and to go and so on. So you were rectifying everything around. Okay, now the Sabbatians are basically one of the late Jewish answers to the expulsion. Why do I say late? Because expulsion is 1492. And Sabbatianism or Semitic Messianic is 1660. 1666. Yeah, okay. So, why I say this is late response? Because Messianic feeling started already with the expulsion. Because there are sayings in rabbinical Judaism that there are rabbis who prayed, God, please don't let me live in the era before the Mashiach's coming. Why? Because it will be a turbulent era, right? And then there are statements in Talmud which says that right before the appearance of Mashiach, there will be, kind of eschatological events. So Jews understood expulsion from Spain as one such eschatological event, and consequently, they were waiting for the Messiah. And this was not some, messianic circles over there. Rabbis like Rabbi Yosef Karo, right, had their own messianic aspirations, and so on. Now, Shabtai Tzvi, and here I want to concentrate on these texts which are extraordinary. There is this guy called Thomas Cohen, and he lived in Izmir. Koenen, that's his name, and he was a priest, pastor of the Protestant community in the city. And he had some Jewish friends, and he was closely following what was going on in Jewish community when Shabtai Tzvi claimed his messianship. Now, this is his book. He wrote the book which is called Stupid Expectation of something like that in plain English. Stupid expectations of the Jews, right? As they were manifested in the person of Shabtai Tzvi, right? So this at the beginning of the book he brings also the portrait of Shabtai Tzvi.
What year was that?
1666 the event happened, and the book was printed in 1669. Now, here is his description. Here is his description of what happens. First of all, Shabtai Tzvi captures the synagogue of Izmir because the rabbis wouldn't let him reinterpret the service or run the service the way he wanted. So he captures the synagogue, right? He silences the rabbis. He makes a service in which Torah is not read from the scroll. It's read from book, right? And then after that, he goes to the Echal, what Ashkenazim call Aron HaKodesh, right? He opens it. He takes out the roll of Torah, the scroll of Torah, and he starts singing the song called Melizelda, right? Now, this is Kohenen's account. This is Gershom Sholem's account. Now, the Kohenen's book was written in Dutch. Most of the researchers didn't read any Dutch. So everybody in Israel and abroad was dependent on Gershom Sholem's translation, which you will see is tendentious, whatever is the English word, tendentious, and inaccurate. Why? Because he's putting into the original text his own interpretation, which is unfortunately wrong. So, this is what Kohenen says himself. He says very simply, from here he went to the ark in which the scroll of Torah is kept. He lifted it in his arms and sang a Spanish song which I shall bring in continuation to the extent I shall be able to capture its meaning and understand its words. Very easy. Now look at the way Gershom Sholem translates this easy passage. At the end of his sermon, Shabbatai went up to the ark, took a Torah scroll in his arms, and sang his favorite song, the Spanish Romansero Melizelda. This ancient Castilian love song was very popular among the Spanish exiles in Turkey. Everything right. Now here comes the Gershom Sholem's interpretation, which is wrong. For Shabbatai, the story of the lover who lay with the emperor's beautiful daughter became a mystical allegory of himself. He was like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, the husband of the beloved Torah. The Torah was none other than the divine Shekhinah herself. The symbolism had already been implicit in the mystical marriage to the Torah, which he celebrated many years ago in Salonika. Now she's Melizelda. So from here we understand that Gershom Sholem understood that Melizelda, the song of the king of Imperator, right, is basically a representation of relationship between Shabbatai Tzvi as a groom and Shekhinah as a bride. So Melizelda stands there for Shekhinah, and Melizelda stands there for Torah. And Shabbatai Tzvi, he is the groom, so he's getting married with the Torah. He's getting married with whom Torah represents, with the female aspect of divinity. He's getting married with Shekhinah. Okay? But that's, you could imply that if there were no other Sabbatian internal documents. Right? And now we are going to one of them. You see, Sholem was even, not Shalom, Sholem. Sholem was even aware. An interesting Hebrew version of the song has been discovered among the manuscripts originally in the possession of the Donemeh of Salonika and was published by Avraham Amario in Sefunot. The title reads from the book of hymns of Rabbi Avraham Yachini concerning Amirah. Amira means Adonenu, Malkenu, Yarum, Hodo. Our master, the king, may his glory be excelled, and this is the way the Sabbatians referred to Shabbatai Sevi. Okay. Now, yeah, and being the fact that these people are always meshadrim, how to say meshadrim? Broadcasting, yeah. They are always broadcasting on two frequencies. So, yes. So, Amira is abbreviation of a Hebrew, is acronym of Hebrew expression for any king, but it's very remindful of Amir al-Mu'minun, right? The Caliph of the Islamic world. Amir, the commander. Amir al-Mu'minun, the commander of the believers. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So, look at this song. Le'ateret Sevi. This is the song, as the way the subtitle says, that Rabbi Abraham Yachini composed for Shabbatai Sevi, following the melody of Melizelda, and Shabbatai Sevi himself used to sing this song. Now look at this and see who is Melizelda. Itimi Lebanon Kala, come from Lebanon, my bride. Kelula Mikol Segula, right? Ba, made of all kind of special things, whatever. Now look at this. Ba Shelomi, my peace has come. Shalom is one of the names of the Messiah, right? Sar Shalom. Melitz El Da, this advocate of God. Now Melitz El Da, if you pronounce it the Sephardic way where Tzadi is just plain Samech, you get Melitz El Da. That's Melizelda, right? So, come bride, and my peace has come, and his name is Melizelda, Yashav al Kiseh Kevoda, and he sat on the chair of her glory. So the Messiah, called peace, right? He is the bride. And he sat on the chair of her glory, of Shekinah's glory. Shabbatai Sevi is the Shekinah. And the groom is God, right? And Torah is the marriage contract. Now this is the first time in Jewish history that, this is not the first time that a secular song is taken to represent metaphysical things. We have already done this with Shir HaShirim, right? Rabbi Akiva said, Kol HaKetuvim Kodesh, Shir HaShirim, Kodesh HaKodashim. All the writings of the third part of the Tanakh, right? Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim. All the writings that belong to Ketuvim are holy, and Shir HaShirim is holy of holies. But if you read Shir HaShirim, there's nothing holy in it on the first glance, right? It's all about groom and bride, bride and groom, groom and bride. But this was interpreted to mean by individualists, to mean the mystical union between God and individual, and by rabbis who preferred the organic community talk. It was interpreted to mean love story between God and Israel. Right? Okay. Now look at this. Bat Melachim hi meula, because the Romanza says, Melizelda, Melizelda, la hija del imperante. Melizelda, Melizelda, the daughter of the emperor. Mina rahatza mizotola, who is coming from the bath. Well, that's now you see, they are always working on two frequencies, broadcasting on two frequencies. Mina rahatza mizotola has to do with Shir HaShirim, right? Rechelim olim mina rahatza. But it also has to do with this romanza, because the romanza says, Melizelda, Melizelda, la hija del imperante que salía de los baños de bañarse. Right? Which was coming from the bathroom where she took bath. Okay. Ba Shelomi Melizelda, my peace, Melizelda has come. Shabbatai Sevi nit'ala, Shabbatai Sevi was exalted. Rosha alea bigdula, and so on. So the entire song speaks about Shabbatai Sevi as the divine bride. So this is very interesting. Now, here you see the Shir how this song has to do with Shir HaShirim, right? It starts with Iti mi Lebanon Kala, come from Lebanon, my bride, right? You see also on this pasuk, right, in Yeshayahu, the idea that one of the names of the Messiah is Shalom is based on this pasuk. So when the song says Shelomi Pa, it actually speaks about Vaikra Shemo Pele Yoetz El Gibor Aviad Sar Shalom. So that's one of the names of the Messiah. Okay. Now, La Isla del Imperante que venía de los baños de lavarse has to do also with these two biblical verses, right? One in Shir HaShirim 3:6 and another in Shir HaShirim 4:2. Now, I will switch through certain things, and I want to get to Natan HaAzati. Natan HaAzati, Nathan of Aza, was not minister of Yasser Arafat, even though he's from Aza, but rather he was the prophet of Shabbatai Sevi. And look at what he says here about Meliselda, the prophet of the Messiah. He says, ועל פי הדברים שאמרנו יתבאר מה שכתוב בזוהר, מהו שבת, שמה דקודשה בריחו. And on base of the things that we have explained, it will be understood what Zohar intends to say when he says that Shabbat is the name of the Holy One, blessed be He. Now, Zohar says Shabbat is one of the names of the Holy One, blessed be He. Here we have already played with the idea of Shabbat, Shabbatai, God. Now, this is something very special about the Jews. When Jews develop strong feelings that certain person is Messiah, then when he dies, they say he never died, and besides that, even if he did, he resurrected, and besides that, he wasn't even human, he was divine. So this, and Jews do this every 500 years, so it was turn of our generation to do the same thing with Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Okay, so he says like this, כי כבר נודע ששביתה היא פעילת העילות, והוא שמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא להורות כי כוח זה ניתן לזה, whatever, I'm not going to translate this because this is too complicated, but look at this. He says, ועל עניינים אלו, and concerning these things, וכיוצא בהם, and their similars, היה משורר אמירה, the אמירה, שבתאי צבי, used to song, שיר קודש קודשים בלעז. He used to sing the song which is Holy of Holies in a foreign language. So he's referring obviously to Meliselda, and he's calling it Holy of Holies, right? And it was sung in a foreign language, and it had to do with the divine name Shabbat. Oh, I have it in English. And by this Zohar statement, that Shabbat is one of the names of the Holy One, blessed be He, as it is already known that Shevita, cessation of work, takes place in Ilat Hailot, cause of causes, which is a name of the Holy One, blessed be He, to teach us that the strength of this will be given to death, that the strength of this will be given to death. And after the 6th millennium, Zeir Anpin will climb to the secret of Shabbat, which always dwells in Yokana Ila'ah, the higher image. And that after he climbs to the secret of Shabbat, the world shall be ruled by Abba and Ima. Shalom, why is this happening?
Divine interpretation.
Some people here are under
Yes, I know, but it's on YouTube. Anybody can find Meliselda on YouTube. Not really. You have it on YouTube.
But Meliselda was inspired by
Meliselda, I'm not sure. There is no bride. Bride is not mentioned in the original song.
But in Shir HaShirim.
Oh, there is no electricity. It's not connected to it.
I don't.
Yes, look, you can see the.
Ah. Oh, so there is no. Oh, so the problem was there. Okay, so it's going to take us additional minutes. We had the airport announcement, so this is much less annoying.
Again, I'll take it.
Yeah. The flight 787.
613. You are used to speaking airports now.
Yeah. So without the.
Greek first.
Yeah, in Greek first. I need to say it in Greek first.
Can you just mention again Amirah?
אמירה, אדוננו, כן, אדוננו מלכנו ירום הודו. אדוננו, לא, מלכנו, אדוננו מלכנו. With them it's מלכנו. ירום, and we know it's מלכנו because of ירום הודו. That's not the traditional, ביצוע. Oh no, it's traditionally sung by women. Romansero, certainly. And by the way, Shabtai Tzvi was the first.
Isha is okay then?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Holy Isha mitzvah.
There was no electricity.
Yeah, okay, so
On the button.
now we have.
It's coming.
Okay, so, and concerning these and similar issues, Amirah used to sing a Holy of the Holy song in the vernacular. Now we don't have too much time, so I'm just showing you now. I'm just showing you now a manuscript, Sabbatian manuscript. We have 5 of those today known. 5 manuscripts of Sabbatian sacred songs. And here, in two of them contain Meliselda, right? So you see, this is version from manuscript Harvard 80, and this is from Ben Tzvi, and so on. And here you have it in translation to English, and here you have it in transcription to. To what? Oh, English is coming. Here is English. Meliselda, English translation. Meliselda, the daughter of the emperor, from the bath she was coming after taking there a bath. She carried her body so like a rosary arose, her relucent forehead a striking sweet sword, and so on. Now, look at this. There is plenty of Sabbatian songs which give us clue that this is the only interpretation of Meliselda amongst the Sabbatians themselves. Because you see here, Shechina de Asilut, sin safek tusos amida. Shechina, here you see in Latin transcription. So one of these Sabbatian songs starts with the word Shechina de Asilut, the female aspect of God that belongs to the Atzilut world. There are 4 words, right? Olam Yetzirah, Olam Atzilut, and so on. It's you, Shabbatai Tzvi. So Shabbatai Tzvi is Shekhinah. Meliselda is Shekhinah. So this is for the first time in Jewish history. You remember when they took Jesus seriously, then Jesus died, and they said he didn't. But then a few decades later, a few centuries later, they deified him. But the deification was finished by claiming that he is the Son of God. Okay? Now, with Shabbatai Tzvi, this is the first time in Jewish history that Messiah, which wasn't successful, was converted to a female aspect of God. He is not Son of God, right? He's not daughter of God. He is God's bride, which is part of the divinity itself. You know how Kabbalah considers the Shekinah not to be a metaphor, but rather a feminine aspect of the divinity itself. Now we can see here, for example, in another Sabbatian song, it says, Toda tu hermosa mi compañera de cabeza hasta pies sin mancura, ahava es Shekinah que es sod amira. Translation from Spanish, you are entirely beautiful, my companion, from the head till your legs, without any blemish. Ahava is the Shekinah, which is the secret of Amira. Or on another place, Zichri, dize mi emuna melech Mashiach u Shekinah, ar elumbro parsemona honra alta en el moro. Zichri says, my faith is that the King Messiah himself is Shekhinah. Through him Parsemona came to world, and high honor dwelt in him. Or, now this is taken back to history then. Not only Shabbatai Tzevi is Shekhinah, but all Messianic kings of Israel were also divine brides. David ben Ishai Shekhinah, El es patron de Emunah. David ben Ishai, he is the Shekhinah, and he is the master of the faith. Okay, here you have another Sabbatian romanza, which says, Chachamim van airando detrás del nuestro Goel, malkenu que la Shekhinah es él. The rabbis go after our Redeemer, who is our King, who is the Shekhinah. So now we know for certain that Shalom's interpretation was wrong. Shabtai Tzvi is not the groom, and Torah is not the bride. Shabtai Tzvi is the bride, right? And God is the groom. Now why is all of this important? Because we actually will see, yeah, I know. Actually, you will see that Shabbatai is always represented by female characters from romansas, by female characters. So, Shalom, I will, okay, because I do need, we started late, right? So I do need some time to finish. Okay, so look at this. This is a beautiful thing. This is Sabbatian romanza, which was only slightly altered general Sephardic romanza. So general Sephardic romanza says, aquel rey de los romanos que Tarquino se llamaba, aquel rey de los romanos que Tarquino se llamaba, oh, here I have the English translation. That king of the Romans, who was named Tarquin, fell in love with Lucrezia. You see, in the original Judeo-Spanish song, it's Lucrezia. Now I will say it very fast in English. The king Tarquino, king of Rome, falls in love with Lucrezia. He comes to her, dressed as nobody from the street. She gives him a supper, and then he starts touching her. And then she says, she recognizes that this is the king, and she says, are you crazy? He says, listen, I'm mad because of my love to you, so now you have two options. Either you will sleep with me, or I will kill you, and I will kill you, the black slave, and I will say to everybody that I was protecting the honor of your husband. And then, in all the versions, she says, I prefer to die with honor than to live a shameful life. Now look at this. The Sabbatians picked this song and changed only two things. First thing they changed is she is not called Lucrezia, she is called Don Creencia. Now Don Creencia is the master of the faith. It's a masculine figure. Okay? So, and then, look at this. Then I will spread the rumor in Rome that you were a woman of ill reputation. Don Creencia as she heard him. Immediately she accepted. I prefer to live with honor, but to die in ill reputation. They went to a single bed, two bodies and one spirit. Soon afterwards, the dawn rise, a clear and dawn. Now, what does this mean? First of all, I was building the momentum for this lecture since we started. The Sultan is the heir to Eastern Roman Empire, and his empire is called Rum. So he is Turco, Rey de los Romanos. The Turk, the king of the Romans. And this is exactly how the Sabbatians understood the song. That king of the Romans who was named Tarquin. In other words, that king of Rumea, that king of Rumeli, that king of Eastern Roman Empire, who was called a Turk, offered to the master of the faith, either you sleep with me, or I will kill you. And then the master of the faith says, oh, I prefer to live with honor than to die a shameful death. So, fornication over here is a metaphor for his conversion. But this is beautiful. A folk song was taken, a beat, altered a bit, and it became apologetical song of Sabbatianism, explaining how the Sabbatian Messiah converted to Islam, right? And you see that all of this is very messianic. I prefer to live with honor but to die in ill reputation. They went to a single bed, he and the king of the Turks. 2 bodies and 1 spirit. Soon afterwards the dawn rise, right? And this is the dawn of Geulah. This is the dawn of redemption. Now, look at this.
So why is disgusting? It says disgusting.
It says, sorry, maybe I translated it wrong. It's my translation to English, so it doesn't count. This is alba clara y espechada. How do you translate espechada to? Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Just bear in mind that this is right and this might be wrong. Okay. Now, they used another song. There is another beautiful song called Delgadina, in which tres hijas tiene el buen rey, tres hijas como la plata, la una se llama Fatma, la otra Sharifa se llama, la más chiquita de ellas, Delgadina se llamaba. Right? So there were 3 daughters. The youngest of them is the most beautiful. The king comes to her and he says, "Oh, I need you to sleep with me." He's her father, by the way. And then she says, this thing should never happen. No, the God from heaven should not allow that I should become competition to my mother, and mother force the mother to my brothers. Okay? And then the king says, "Oh, you don't want to sleep with me," and he throws her to a tower where she lives in seclusion. That's the original song. Now, the Sabbatians, they didn't have nerves. No, they didn't have time. They didn't have whatever. They were not willing to sing the entire song. Who needs that? They picked only the last part, which says, "No, while God in heavens would not will that, would not do that, that I should be my mother's rival and proves that mother to my siblings." And then, this is the thesis. And then they converted it to antithesis. So God in heavens willed. So willed and so has done, that I should be mother's rival and proves that mother to my siblings. In other words, this is again, just like previously, Lucrezia sleeping with Torquino, married woman sleeping with a foreigner, was a metaphor for conversion. Over here, incest within the family is a metaphor for the conversion. Now I'm getting to the end of it. This is the most beautiful thing. There is another song. Called La Sanjuanada, the day of Saint John, and this song says, "Armaban guerra los moros a las ciudades de guerrears." The Moors launched a war at the cities of dispute, brandishing on their horses. They went out to play with their spears. "Oh, Sharifa, my beloved." They were rising banners and so on and so on and so on. I will not read the entire song. What happens is the following. The Sabbatians over here didn't change much to get the tune that they wanted. What's most important are these names, Sharifa and Fatima. The Prophet of Islam had one daughter that gave him offspring, and her name is Fatima. Right? And right? You see here, one of them is called Fatma, the other Sharifa is her name. Fatma told to Sharifa as if giving her advice. Now, this Fatima had 2 sons, Hassan and Hussein. Right? Now, Hassan and Hussein, they were both slaughtered. But before they were slaughtered, they had their own children. And today, in Muslim world, all those people who were born by Hassan or by Hussein, if they come from Hussein, they are called Sharif, and if they come from Hassan, they are called Sayyid. And there was in the Ottoman Empire, there was a minister whose only job was to conduct the lists of these people. Why? Because they were exempt from paying taxes, they couldn't be publicly punished, but all these people are called ashraf, the exalted ones, right? Now, here we see what Sabbatians expected of to be the final aftermath of Shabtai Tzvi's conversion. That Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet, will say to Sharifa, basically her offspring, my sister Sharifa, who is deeply in love. Sharifa is deeply in love with, so the Muslim aristocracy is deeply in love with Shabtai Tzvi. You used to have rosy cheeks and now you look changed. Show up, my Sharifa, from the silvery window and you shall see Adonenu, our master, with the Shekinah on his face. His light shines so much that it dazzles the Shekinah. May God allow us, this is Fatima speaking, may God allow us to see him with this body and soul, oh my beloved Sharifa. So basically, the idea is that Shabtai Tzvi was supposed to bring the elite of the Islamic world to Judaism, to his own messianic belief, and this way to rectify the world. And by this I'm finishing, because we have the other lecture, but I'll just tell you something. There seems to be a very found and sound base to the claim that Atatürk himself was Sabbatian and also descendant of Shabbatai Tzvi. Now, amongst the people of this group, amongst the Sabbatians of this very day, they see it as the finger of destiny, that between Mehmed the Fourth, who converted Shabtai Tzvi to Islam, and Mehmed the Fifth, who was deposed by Atatürk, there was no other Mehmed in the Ottoman history, on the Ottoman throne. And then one of the first laws that Atatürk passed was to remove the turban. Turban originally was sign of somebody's conversion to Islam. People in the Ottoman Empire could be recognized to which faith they belong by their hats from 50 meters. You see his hat, you know who he is. So Muslims were recognized by their hat. The symbolical passing from one community to another was represented by putting the oriental hat. And then over here, Atatürk comes and he abolishes, by law, in Turkey, a person who would wear fes or turban would go to jail, and so on. So Sabbatians believe that Atatürk, to a certain extent, even if he's not related, fulfilled the Sabbatian legacy, or the legacy of Shabtai Tzvi. Now we'll speak, on later occasion we'll speak how come Atatürk might really be of Sabbatian extraction, but here I end, and I'm just saying one single sentence. So we have seen over here that this is basically the first transgender Messiah in Jewish history. First transgender Messiah, because this Messiah was not comfortable with his masculine role. And picking the romanza to express religious feelings was unimaginable in the Sephardic world, because romanza was a genre of the woman, right? And it was sang in vernacular, and he, as representative of rabbinical elite, was supposed to sing in Hebrew. Now, very picking Spanish song, belonging to a despised genre of, lascive songs, is okay. But then his followers to see this, and they always represented by these songs in which he replaces the main female protagonist, right? And Sabbatianism was actually the first movement in Jewish history who claimed full equality between men and women, right? And this all has to do with the fact that Sabbatai himself has a problem with his maleness. But we'll speak about that during our last lecture, and I'll stop here. Thank you.
While Shalom is just setting up really quick, I want to give everybody a map. You didn't get it? Here. The hotel is above number 13.
Ja, vind ik het. Ja, ik zie het.